He has everything money can buy, but he hasn't felt the warmth of a sincere hug for years. Ricardo Almeida, the feared millionaire, built empires and erected walls around his own heart. But a simple nanny, coming from nowhere, is about to tear down each one of them. What happens when a man who has forgotten how to love meets someone who cannot accept life without love? Before we begin this story full of emotion and twists, please like and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments where you are listening to our story from. This will help us bring you more incredible stories. Now, get ready, because this story may change everything you believe about love. An influential tycoon marked by coldness and aversion to emotional ties never imagined that his daily life would turn upside down when he crossed paths with a childcare worker of humble origins. She, full of candor and kindness, entered his luxurious residence without imagining that she would bring with her something more precious than her experience with children: the ability to rekindle feelings long dormant in a man who believed he had lost the ability to love. Will this tycoon discover genuine love, despite social prejudices and pressures inherited from his family? What lies ahead is a narrative that will surprise even the most skeptical. Before starting, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us which city you are watching us from. The rain was relentlessly beating down the window while the clock indicated exactly 9 p.m. Alexandre Moreira watched the drops running down the translucent panel, forming tortuous patterns that reflected the intense lights of the night in the great metropolis. His tall, reserved figure seemed a perfect contrast in the sober environment of the large office decorated with exclusive pieces and works of art. Valuable silent witnesses of his overwhelming success and his increasingly unbearable loneliness. A bolt of lightning lit up the horizon, followed by a distant rumble. The 35-year-old man raised his dark eyes to the stormy sky. At that second, he felt something strange in his chest, as if that storm were a warning. His fingers gently tightened the glass of cognac he was holding as a restlessness set in. Sometimes the protection we erect becomes our own prison, he whispered almost inaudibly as his eyes wandered over the photo frames meticulously arranged around the room, memories of a life that no longer seemed to belong to him upstairs in the mansion. A 6-year-old boy hid under the covers at every thunderclap. Nicholas Moreira tightly clutched his stuffed bunny, a worn gift that held memories of his mother. Small tears insisted on escaping from his large eyes as he babbled for someone who would never return. And it was on that night of cutting winds and threatening thunder that fate laid the first links of a plot that would forever unite two hearts that lived in complete darkness in the opulent Moreira mansion. The headquarters of the Moreira Group stood majestically in the city's financial center, a titan of steel and glass that reflected the power accumulated by generations within that empire. Alexandre Moreira was known in the corporate world as the Ice Baron, a nickname he carried without any pride or protest. The graphs for the last quarter are below the esteemed Mr. Moreira reported Larissa, his advisor, a middle-aged lady with an eternally worried look. Alexandre confirmed with a gesture without taking his attention off the spreadsheet, "I want all the directors here tomorrow at 8 sharp, 0 tolerance for delays." His voice sounded calm but determined. "Yes, sir, and about the interview for Nicholas's new nanny at 5, it remains confirmed." She continued checking the virtual calendar. Mrs. Godoy called to formalize the dismissal. This time, Alexandre's gaze shifted from the screen. He let out a subtle sigh. "5th nanny quitting in a 6-month interval. Tell Marcia from HR that I'm swamped with commitments. She should select someone qualified." "Sorry, sir, but Marcia was emphatic that you have to be present this time. She said that the ideal choice of caregiver for Nicola could emerge if the father participated more actively." A heavy silence hung in the air. Alexandre knew that his distance from his son was evident, although no one other than his brother Gustavo dared to comment. "Okay," he finally gave in with a cold expression. 5 o'clock then, on the other side of the city in a small rented room in the Jardim Clara district, Helena Campos was ironing her best dress shirt. Her light and skillful fingers stretched the white fabric, while her light brown eyes reflected a soft firmness. The 23-year-old girl stared at her reflection in the already worn mirror. The locks of wavy brown hair shaped a face with soft features and deeply expressive eyes that brought a mix of delicacy and resistance. Helena checked the shirt and simple skirt once more, breathing to calm herself. "Grandma fills me with courage," she stammered, looking up at an old photo on the bedside table. In the image, a lady of grey hair and a loving smile seemed to encourage her with a gentle look. The neighborhood of Valle Encantado in the interior of another state now seemed far away, not only in distance but in time, a little over 3 months ago in Rio Esperanza, and Helena still felt swallowed up by the cold rush of the big capital. But she knew there was no going back. That was her chance to turn things around, with her modest bag over her shoulder and a crumpled piece of paper with the address. She set off for the interview that would change the course of her destiny. The Morera property in the prestigious Imperial neighborhood was so impressive that Helena stopped for a moment in front of the iron gate, feeling her heart beat fast for a second. She thought about going back. What chance would a young woman from the interior without great credentials have of getting a job in a house like that? "Can I help you?" The deep voice of the security guard interrupted her thoughts. "I came for the interview. My name is Helena Campos." Shortly after, the housekeeper, Regina, with closed features, led her through an impeccably well-kept garden to the main door. The interior was even more majestic: shiny floors, rare pieces of art, and furniture that looked like they had never been touched. Helena felt out of place until she came across a picture frame that caught her eye. In the picture, you could see Alexandra, much younger and smiling, hugging an extremely beautiful woman by the waist. The happiness was evident in an almost real way. "This is my wife, Alice." Helena almost dropped the picture frame when she got a fright. Alexandra Morera watched her standing in the doorway with an indecipherable expression. "Forgive me, I didn't mean to." Snoop. Helena justified herself, putting the picture back in its place. "I'm sorry for the indiscretion. It's no problem," he replied, coming closer. "Alice died 5 years ago, accident." There was something in the tone in which he spoke that gave Helena goosebumps. It wasn't rudeness, but the objective way of saying something still painful without actually showing the pain. "I'm very sorry," Helena said sincerely. Alexandra indicated a chair. "Please sit down. Let's go to the interview in the next 30 minutes. She answered objective questionnaires about her experience that was not formal, about having only completed high school and full-time availability. Each answer rang in Helena's head, the certainty that her chances were dwindling. "Miss Campos, tell me why I should hire you instead of so many candidates with solid training in the area of education." The question echoed in the room. Helena took a slow breath before speaking. "Mr. Morera, I don't have any relevant degrees, but I learned from an early age that taking care of someone goes beyond manuals or spreadsheets. It's being there when the person needs it." She looked for a second before continuing. "I was raised by my grandmother, and I saw that true care is born of love and honesty. I can't promise to be the best nanny, but I guarantee that your son will have someone who genuinely cares." Alexandra stared at her in silence, as if trying to decipher a riddle. Her transparent manner clashed with her universe of cold greetings and rehearsed words. "My son Nicholas is not easy," she finally confessed. "Since he lost his mother, he became withdrawn. There have been great professionals who gave up everything. Children can feel when we are physically present or just providing a service." Helena calmly replied, "If you give me the opportunity, I promise never to deceive your son." There was something wrong in the eyes of that young woman that led Alexandra to make an unexpected decision. "You start tomorrow." Nicolas Morera was a boy with a penetrating gaze and few words. When he met Helena, He just analyzed her as if trying to read her thoughts, without saying almost anything, refusing questions or any contact. At first, Nicholas does not accept strangers easily, commented Regina, the housekeeper, while showing the boys' room, a huge room full of expensive toys, all practically intact. Mr. Moreira leaves before he wakes up and returns after he goes to sleep. Helena felt her heart tighten every day, most of the time. She checked Regina with a look that said a lot. The absence of Mrs. Alice changed everything, and the relationship in the family. The boy has no other grandparents, uncles. Alexandra's parents died early. There is only Mr. Gustavo, the boss's older brother, who appears from time to time, but does not show much appreciation for his nephew that first week. Helena came across Nicholas's wall of silence. Everything was mechanical: school, lunch, bath, bed. But the child avoided opening up one afternoon when the rain got in the way of any activity in the yard. Helena decided to try a different strategy. You know, Nicholas, when I was at your age, you lived in a place where it rained a lot. My grandmother used to say that rainy days are magical because that's when stories beg to be told. Nicholas looked up from his notebook where he was scribbling something without enthusiasm, a brief flash of curiosity. I realize that when I improvise a story, you like to hear it. How about the one about the boy who got lost in a dark forest and found something mysterious? He wanted to know what was in the forest. Nicholas stopped drawing and looked up, silently indicating that he was interested. Helena was creating a fable, giving voices to each character and noticing that little by little the boy was getting closer, immersed in the narrative. And what happened to the boy next? Nicola asked when Helena paused, her voice so low that it was barely audible. Her heart beat fast when she noticed that tiny opening. The answer will come in the next story, if you want to hear it, she answered with a wink. That night, contrary to custom, Alexandra arrived home a little early. When he went upstairs, he heard something that had sounded new for a long time: his son's laughter. Intrigued, he went to the bedroom and came across Nicholas and Helena building a fort out of sheets attached to chairs and the wardrobe. "Dad," the boy called with an enthusiasm that caught Alexandra off guard. "What's this?" he asked, trying to sound stern, but wavering in the face of the scene. "We are exploring a secret forest," Helena joked, getting up from inside the fort, her hair messy. "Nicola is the fearless explorer and I am his guide." Alexandra remained still, as if he did not recognize that childish happiness. The sudden realization that the nanny had gained in just a few days a confidence that he himself had not achieved in years made him feel something between surprise and a slight jealousy. "I understood." That was all he muttered before walking away, feeling that he had been excluded from the fun that night. When Helena was already leaving the mansion after putting Nicola to sleep, Alexandre called her to the office. "How was your day?" he asked without looking up. "Great. Nicholas is very smart and emotional," he repeated as if testing the word, and looked at her intently. "He needs to learn to be strong. The world is not kind to sensitive people." Helena hesitated, choosing her words carefully and respectfully. "Mr. Moreira, I believe that recognizing emotions is not a sign of weakness, but of strength." He observed her intensely. "You always say what you think, Miss Campos. My grandma used to say that lying about certain things makes the world more complicated," she replied firmly. Alexandra swallowed a smile that insisted on appearing. "Good night, Miss Campos." "Good night, Mr. Moreira," walking to the bus stop. Helena reflected on that man and her son. A boy who cried out for attention and a father who had locked himself in an internal fortress. Something in her whispered that a simple job would turn into something much bigger. The weeks went by, and Helena's presence, although subtle, produced notable changes in the Moreira's routine. Nicholas, who had previously refused to even speak, now inundated the nanny with countless questions about everything. His drawings, which had previously been cold, gained bright colors. Regina, always discreet, noticed the small changes with approval. It had been so long since she had seen him like that. She commented on one occasion while helping Helena prepare a snack for the boy. "You have a special talent, girl." "It's not a talent," Helena replied, putting away fresh strawberries. "You just have to really care." Alexandra also saw the transformation, although he continued to be absorbed in work. Sometimes he would show up at dinner time and occasionally pass by quickly to say goodnight. Small but significant gestures on a clear afternoon, he was distracted by the laughter coming from the garden. When he peeked through the window, he saw Helena blowing soap bubbles while Nicholas ran after them. The two laughed as if they were in another world. The golden sunset sun bathed that scene, transforming it into something almost unreal. For the first time in years, Alexandra remembered what it meant to play. He forgot about spreadsheets, strategic plans, and commitments he went downstairs without. Thinking, Nicholas exclaimed happily upon seeing him, "Dad, do you want to try blowing bubbles?" Alexandra was embarrassed, and Helena noticed his discomfort, but with a soft smile, he held out the little pot. "Try it, Mr. Moreira. Don't underestimate the power of soap bubbles." He picked up the clumsy object. His first few blows produced half a dozen tiny bubbles that exploded in the blink of an eye. "No, Daddy," Nicholas corrected, smiling. "You have to blow with determination." Helena confirmed, laughing, wisdom from the countryside. Alexandra tried again and managed to produce several bubbles that danced in the air under the sun. He laughed in a way he hadn't done in a long time. That night, as he returned to his office to work, a flash of something was crawling inside him. The walls that had been built to protect his heart were showing signs of cracking. Nicholas's first school performance since his mother's death had come too soon for the boy. He faithfully rehearsed his role in a little play about the environment. He spoke excitedly about the event. "You're going, aren't you, Daddy?" he asked over coffee, hopefully. "I'll see," Alexandra said, trying not to promise anything. "I have a meeting, but I'll try." Nicola shook his head, already used to this type of answer, which usually indicated absence. Helena was preparing the boy's costume when Regina called her to answer the phone. It was Larissa, the boss's assistant. She sounded professional. "Mr. Moreira won't be attending the play. The meeting with the investors went over schedule." Helena felt her indignation rise. Why doesn't he call his son directly? Larissa was silent for a moment. "Mr. Moreira is very busy." "I understand," Helena murmured, her voice tight. "Thank you for the warning." When she hung up, she came face to face with Nicholas at the door, still dressed in his tree costume, with a look as if he had already deduced the whole outcome. "Dad really isn't going, is he?" the boy asked, resigned. She knelt down to be at his level. "Nicholas, your father." "Okay," he interrupted, trying to smile. "I'm used to it, but you'll be there, right?" "Of course I will be," Helena assured me. "I will film it so we can show him later." The presentation went perfectly. Nicola delivered his lines masterfully. At the end, when the children were reunited with their families, Helena applauded as if she wanted to make up for her father's absence. But it was almost not enough. On the way back home, Regina was driving, and the boy remained silent, looking at the landscape without saying a word. Helena preferred to respect her silence, even though her heart was heavy. Alexandra arrived very late that night, as usual, and found Helena still awake in the living room with a serious expression. "Did something happen to Nicola?" he asked anxiously. "Not physically," she answered. "Nicola needed you today. It wasn't a negotiation that was at stake. It was a child's heart." Alexandra took a deep breath. "Helena, some things are beyond my control. It was an essential meeting for the expansion abroad." His voice sounded cold, but at the same time uncomfortable. "Today, he was counting on you," she replied firmly without backing down. "He rehearsed for weeks, counting the days, and what was left for him when he didn't see you." Helena shook her head without words to explain Nicholas's hurt. "Without knowing me well, he only asked for her presence." Alexandre crossed the room and poured himself a shot of cognac. "Miss Campos, although I appreciate your concern, there is a universe that you do not understand. What I do not understand is how a successful man does not set aside time for something irreplaceable. The sun, Helena felt her face burn, but did not back down. Nicholas is growing up without you. It is easy for you to judge, don't you think? Alexandra replied in a low tone full of irritation. A girl who has lived very little, daring to give me lessons about parenthood. You barely know the responsibilities I carry. In fact, I don't know all your duties, Helena acknowledged. But they taught me that nothing surpasses the love for a child. Alexandre put down the glass with more force than he intended. That's enough, Miss Campos. You're dismissed. Helena stood up, and before leaving, she said one last thing. He called you to the stage today. The place was empty. I couldn't say anything when he asked about my father, so she left, leaving Alexandra with heavy thoughts. The next morning, Helena feared she would be fired at any moment, but instead, she found everything as it was. Alexandra left early, silently, and she did her normal tasks with Nicola until the end of the afternoon. When she was accompanying the boy with his homework, she heard the front door open. Alexandra was home. Earlier than usual, Nicola called from the hallway, his voice running through the house. "I'm in my room, Daddy," the boy replied, surprised, euphoric with the rare chance of seeing his father at that hour. Alexandra appeared at the door, still wearing a suit but without a tie. "Can I see how school was today?" Nicholas looked at him with his jaw dropped, and at Helena as if asking if he wasn't dreaming it all. "Okay," he stuttered excitedly. "I drew a picture of the recycling teacher's project. Can I see it?" The boy ran to get the work, while Helena and Alexandra looked at each other. "Oh, Miss Campos," Alexandra began in the same low tone. "About yesterday." "You don't need to say anything," he interrupted her softly. "I'm glad you're back now." Nicholas returned, beaming, showing the drawing full of colors. In it, there were 3 figures holding hands: a tall man, a woman with wavy hair, and the boy. "Between them, it's us," Nicholas explained calmly. "Me, you, and he, going to the forest for my school project." Alexandra was silent for a few seconds, looking at every detail. Finally, he cleared his throat. "He's very handsome, son." That night, Alexandra had dinner with Nicholas and took him to bed. Helena watched everything from afar. When Nicola fell asleep, the tycoon met the nanny in the hallway. "I think I should apologize," he said in a low voice. "You don't owe me anything," she whispered, smiling. "But you were brave." "What did you do today?" "Brave? Reading a bedtime story to my son," she explained sweetly. "Sometimes changing a habit requires courage, especially when it is something you thought was impossible." Alexandra stared at her without looking away, as if only then he had truly seen her. Something in that simple girl shook his certainties and sparked questions about his own choices. "Good night, Helena." "Good night, Alexandra." She used his first name naturally, something that could sound out of protocol, but that fit perfectly there that night. 2 hearts, previously dry and isolated, began to bloom under the same roof. Spring appeared in the big city, bringing color to the garden of the Morera mansion. Nicholas, fascinated, observed the changes in nature, asking Helena to walk around the yard every late afternoon, noting each new flower that awakened. "This one is a magnolia," Helena said one day, kneeling beside him to touch the white petal. "My grandmother said that they symbolize persistence and hidden revelations." "Persistence," Nicholas repeated thoughtfully, like facing things for real. Helena laughed. "Yes, it is similar. Sometimes flowers speak for us. And which flower represents love?" he asked curiously. Suddenly, Helena felt her cheeks blush. "There are many red roses. They are famous. But which one do you think is the most beautiful for love?" Nicholas insisted. "I've always liked sunflowers. They are simple but strong. At the same time, they grow facing the light, even in places where there is little light." Nicholas looked at her with his childish seriousness. "You are like a sunflower. You grow anywhere. Regina sometimes says that you are not from here, but you have not given up on her." Helena blushed at the boy's words, smiling awkwardly. "Did your housekeeper say that?" He shrugged his shoulders. "He said that you don't fit in well with the routine here, but that in a way, you have changed everything." Helena smiled, shaken but happy. This comparison is unexpected. Nicola looked like he didn't think anything was wrong and turned his attention back to the flowers. Helena looked away when she remembered that Gustavo Moreira, Alexandra's older brother, and her mother-in-law, Dona Beatriz, did not look kindly on her. But she controlled herself so as not to worry the child. "What else do they say?" She tried to find out calmly. Nicholas smiled a little and said that you've been making Daddy softer and that's dangerous for business. Helena just nodded, a tingling of apprehension running through her body. Things were changing too much and too fast. Daddy likes staying here more and more, Nicholas added. Helena got up and ruffled his hair gently. In a way, it was true. Alexandra had been working more at home lately. He had video conferences and had lunch with Nicola whenever he could. At that moment, Alexandra appeared in the garden, still wearing a dress shirt and expensive shoes, but with his sleeves rolled up. He smiled at his son and the nanny. "What are you guys up to?" Nicholas ran over to him. "He is showing me magnolias and sunflowers. Do you want to see Daddy?" Alexandra gave a surprised look. "Yes, of course, show me." Helena followed them, feeling her heart beat in a calm rhythm, but with something different. Noticing the way Alexandra looked at her when he thought she wasn't looking, filled her with an almost unknown warmth. "It's been a long time since I've seen Nicholas so alive," Alexandre commented quietly while the boy chattered in front of him. Helena smiled. He just needed someone to pay attention. Alexandra looked at her. "You also surprise me, Helena. The way you care and what you awaken in me." The gentle spring climate reflected the new atmosphere in the mansion, but a whirlwind of intrigue ran through the corridors of high society. For some, it was great to see Alexandre Moreira more sociable and open. But for Gustavo, it meant a change of course and weakening of business. At a board meeting where Alexandre presented his new expansion proposals, Gustavo didn't miss a chance to take a dig. "I wonder if these innovations come from a genuine vision or from some external influence." Alexandra remained calm. "The decisions are mine. But it's true that I'm learning to listen to advice from outside, including from those who aren't afraid to speak the truth." Gustavo rolled his eyes, and at the end of the meeting, he held his brother back for an ultimatum. "I won't watch while you throw the entire Moreira legacy in the trash because of a distraction with a nanny." Alexandra frowned. "Be careful with what you say, Gustav. I think you're going too far." "Listen, little brother, our father didn't risk himself to see you hand over everything to an opportunist from the countryside who is manipulating you, and on top of that, he cares too much about this speech about humanity." Alexander felt his anger grow, but took a deep breath. "Don't test my limits. Gustavo, my patience for games is running out," and left, leaving the other alone in the office. The tension didn't take long to reach Helena's ears, through veiled comments from the people at the mansion and Nicholas's reaction, who sometimes asked her if she was going to leave one day after another. "Almost family dinner," Nicholas asked, full of fear. "What if someone comes and takes you away from here?" She tried to calm him down without saying what was really happening. "Don't worry, I won't disappear like your mother did." But Helena felt the same fear deep down in the corridors of power. Gustavo acted in the shadows, certain that Helena needed to be eliminated from the game. Why? Alexandre was changing decisions, cutting employees less than Gustavo would like, investing in social responsibility, and all of this threatened huge profits. On a stormy afternoon, Larissa called Helena to tell her that Gustavo wanted to have a word with her at a cafe on the other side of the city. Helena preferred to refuse, but something in Larissa's voice made her doubt whether she had a choice. So, armed with courage, she went to a sophisticated cafe at the end of the day. Without saying anything to Alexandra, Gustavo's intention was clear. He placed an envelope stuffed with money on the table and offered for her to disappear. He said he was worried about Nicola, claiming that Alexandra would relapse if he were abandoned again. Helena felt every part of her body heat up with anger. "I'm not for sale," she said without blinking. Gustavo gave a tense smile. "Why believe that you won't repeat what others have done? What will happen when you realize that this lifestyle is not for you? When you leave and Alexandra sinks again? Think of Nicholas." His expression was slyly protective. Helena stood up, gathering the little dignity that the conversation had left. "You don't care about anything other than power, Gustavo. But know that I won't stop fighting for them," and left, leaving the envelope intact, and the man stewing in his anger returned to the mansion soaked by the rain and the fear that Gustavo was right. And what if she hurt Alexandra and Nicola, if she didn't adapt to that world? As soon as Helena arrived, she went to the office. Alexandra was analyzing papers without imagining the turmoil on her face. "Did something happen?" he asked, frowning suspiciously. She took a deep breath. "We need to talk to Alexandre," and told him everything about Gustavo's proposal, exchanging names and details, but saying the essentials. She also added that she had doubts about her own worth. In the midst of everything, Alexandra's face tightened with indignation. He dared. He shook his head in disbelief. "I won't let him define our lives." "Helena, I worry," she whispered. "And if he's right, you're a man full of hurt and fear. What if my choices make you regress?" Alexandra approached, holding her hands. "Helena, my guilt for Alice's death is a shadow that haunts me every day. But you helped me see that there is life beyond the pain." "Yes," he confessed with a choked voice. "The tragedy struck us after an argument. If I had been more careful, if I hadn't drunk that night, maybe she would be alive today. But the police declared it an accident. The road was wet and visibility was poor. It doesn't change the fact that I didn't save my wife and almost got lost in the drink." Helena wiped the tears that welled up in her eyes. "Deleted eyes, we have ghosts, but we can't let them win when I showed up," she continued. "Gustavo thinks I'm an opportunist, but I just wanted to help Nicholas not be afraid of the dark." Alexandre pulled her into a tight hug. The intense conversation was interrupted by the call of the boy, who had woken up crying with the thunder. Helena went up and cuddled Nicola, telling a little story while Alexandra watched her. He had never felt so grateful for another person in his life. The next day, news spread. Against Gustavo's will, Alexandre would call a charity event in the name of Morera Corp. Something unrelated to traditional formalism, to turn the attention that society had on him and his son's nanny into something productive. Helena helped with the idea, suggesting that it should focus on the education of needy children in the countryside, a cause close to what she herself had experienced. The repercussion was huge, and even the people who loved gossip decided to participate after all. It was the event of the year. In the great aristocratic party hall, the high society gathered for this philanthropic auction. And there were Alexandra, Helena, and Nicola, forming a trio that drew attention. Not long ago, they doubted her. Now many were amazed by Helena's simple elegance and Alexandra's more human manner. The big surprise was when Nicola asked to make a short speech. When he went up on stage, the boy spoke about how important it is to have someone who understands us and calms us down when we have nightmares or fears of the world. "My mother died and I missed her a lot, but Helena showed me that I can remember my mother without suffering and still have fun again." Her little eyes full of innocence left several guests with tears in their eyes. When he finished the speech, he did something unexpected. He pulled Helena's and Alexandre's hands to go up there with him. "Ready, Daddy? I told you everything I said. She is special." The audience applauded. The emotion was visible even on the austere face of Beatriz, Alice's mother, who was there in a corner of the audience, even though she was shy at the end of the event. Helena was collecting some donation papers when Beatriz approached. Trembling, her mother-in-law spoke little and had always been cold, but now her eyes betrayed a whirlwind I appreciate. "Your care for Nicholas," he murmured that night, and he laughed like I've never seen since Alice left. Helena didn't know what to say. She just thanked him with a short wave. Beatrice left without saying anything else, but the spark of reconciliation was beginning to ignite. At least timidly that night, Helena and Alexandra went to bed late. Nicolas was already asleep, and they talked at length about the future and the challenges that were yet to come. The certainty that Gustavo would not give up hung in the air, but with their hands clasped and a renewed hope, they decided that they would face everything together. Gustavo's efforts to undermine Alexandra intensified, but the CEO of Moreira Corp reversed each blow with skillful strategies in the corporate area and with the courage that came from someone who is rediscovering emotions and no longer wanted to be defeated by coldness. There was a crucial board meeting where Gustavo tried to prove that charitable actions were irresponsible, generating unnecessary costs. However, Alexandre presented statistics that showed how companies that invested in social impact profited in the long term. The vote was close, but Alexandra maintained, "Are you leading the firm to ruin in your leadership position?" Gustavo shouted in the parking lot after the meeting, frustrated by the defeat. "Have a good one, little brother," Alexandra replied, not angrily but firmly. A few weeks went by, and Helena noticed that the pressure was also falling on Nicolas. During his uncle's rare visits, he would hear comments that Helena didn't belong in that family and that she would disappear as quickly as she had appeared. But the boy disputed what he taught me. Life can be changed by those who truly care. The boy's loyalty impressed Helena and moved Alexandra. On a bright afternoon that was celebrating the victory in the last negotiation, Alexandra appeared at the mansion full of enthusiasm. Nicola and Helena welcomed him in the hall because he had promised a family outing to a quiet park. When the housekeeper Regina asked where they were going, he laughed with genuine relief. "The only way out of here is Regina. Something that I should have done from the beginning in the park." Nicola ran free, climbed into tree branches and hunted butterflies, while Helena and Alexandra walked side by side, feeling the fresh breeze and sharing confessions. "No," Helena started, he staring at the trees. "I have to admit that you made me review everything, not only with my son, but with me." She looked curious before you, wanting to be a real father, and discovering that I can still love Helena. Felt the hearts of the heart accelerate when he heard the confession and lowered the look, held her hand lightly, and added that I am falling in love with you, Helena. The statement came out more sure of what he predicted. She looked at her without being able to talk about instantly and hugged him with the warmth. She also realized, on the horizon, he hovered the threat of those who did not accept this story. Gustavo and Beatrice still conspired in subtle and unexpected ways, Alexandre and Helena, but still determined to build together a new reality, came the great day when Alexandre decided that he would marry with Helena. A small ceremony just for intimate news fell as a bomb in the elitist circles, and Gustavo Haved Beatrice also made objections. But deep down, I did not want to hurt the grandson, so it was limited to critical looks and rough words. They may think it would be a marriage to fail, as something passing but deceived. Helena, stronger than ever, responded to every challenge with serenity. After all, there was his little Nicholas, overflowing happiness, and the love of Alexander, who grew a day after the old marriage took place. Cho, adorned with sunflowers, that Helena loved, a symbolic choice of simplicity and light. Nicholas, with a miniature suit, was proud to be responsible for the alliances. And when the time has come to exchange votes, she made a point of being with her father, and almost Mother Helena promised the boy that she would not erase the memory of Alice, but always being there to protect, to love, and to inspire the child and the people present. The child and the people can. As for the union of that trio was unique. There was discreet tears even from Beatrice and Gustavo, who witnessed the strength of that bond that no financial interest could break. By putting the ring on Helena's finger, Alexandra looked at her ordinary brightness in the eyes. I thought that after Alice my heart would never see the light, but you always showed that there is always a dawn. There was only now, but you made me see a future for our family. And so the celebrant declared them husband and wife under applause that sounded like the choir of a story of overcoming after the family party in the mansion. Everyone gathered in the Nicholas Gardens ran among the guests that now had a mother again, Helena, but happy. He was back with a huge house that became a huge home. And he revealed a final surprise, handed him a document from a field near the Encantado Valley, land of Helena's grandmother bought so that you do not miss your roots. We can go there on holidays and Nicholas will know where you came from. A smile that flooded in tears of gratitude was more than a gift. It was proof that he respected and loved her past. Boy, will you tell me more stories? Can I help build the sunflower garden? Dad, can I invite Grandma Beatrice? One step at a time, Nick, but we can do everything, yes, said Helena, and again the fate together and future in a single epilogue bond. 3 years later, the erected field refuge near the afternoon sun on the flower. Nicholas, now with 9-year-old sister Clara, 2 years old, the little girl of curly hair, and easily ran after her brother and Alexander. But resplendent affection after numerous battles against family distrust and the shadows of the past, they were all together. And in peace, Gustavo had found a way to coexist. And although not nourishing great sympathies, tried to maintain a cordial relationship for children. Beatrice sometimes appeared with extravagant gifts. They made a point of showing how simple life could be. Beautiful, Helena and Alexandra Christian, was love. It was a family. It was that home that both longed for so much, tempted, changed because of you. Helena admitted Alexandra, wrapping her in a strong hug with her children's gaze. You made me want to live again than that. I think you wished me to be someone better. She returned a smile and snuggled into her arms. Who would say that an interior babysit? In the backyard, Clara and Nicholas laughed, celebrating childhood secrets as the soft breeze blown into the valley, bringing the foreigning that happiness is not in great fortunes, but in small daily gestures. The true conquest was not the Moreira Empire, nor social status was to be able to look around and feel that they finally had all they needed to be fully happy.